February 16th. Today is supposed to be the day that Russia was supposed to invade, at least according to the US news. I'm in capital of Ukraine right now, and this is one of the government buildings right here in the city center. This is where the soldiers were when I took the photo the other day. And yeah, let's get started. So welcome guys. The chime started exactly at 5 o'clock. Hello everyone, where are you guys from? And let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I'm assuming everything's okay. But today I wanted to explain a lot. I wanted to show you actually what's happening on the ground here in Ukraine. Let me actually just flip the camera a bit so you can see who's around, what's going on. And also I wanted to explain why I decided to stay, even though the US Embassy had basically evacuated, and the US government and many other embassies have told their citizens to go home. We have people from Scotland, Sri Lanka, Texas, UK, Orlando, Romania, Sri Lanka, cloudy Arizona, Turkey, Hungary, Canada. So thank you guys all so much for joining Detroit. It's probably more dangerous than Kyiv, to be honest. Russia, it's nice to see people actually from Russia watching as well. And Seattle. So a lot has happened in the last week, to be honest. My last video was filmed 3 weeks ago when I was in the US, and everyone told me not to go back to Ukraine. People said I'm crazy if I decide to go back to Kyiv, especially with the panic happening. And then things just got worse. The news, I think it died down for a week or two, and then my mom started calling again saying, Johnny, you need to leave. Please, I'll pay for your flight. Like, just go somewhere. And I said, Mom, like, it's not about the money. I can buy a flight. I just, I didn't want to leave. And I had to ask myself, am I just being stubborn, or is there really not that big of a danger? So that was a question that I really had to dig deep in, right? And the answer wasn't just by watching the news. Like, if you look around, everything looks relatively normal. I mean, it is the winter in Ukraine, so this is kind of jury, but I mean, literally there's a woman with a pram behind me, right? Like, people are walking their kids, things are relatively normal. So I asked myself, do I want to listen to my mom's friends? Do I want to listen to the people messaging me on Instagram, leaving comments on YouTube? Or should I talk to people who are actually living in Ukraine and maybe have some kind of better knowledge or more insightful knowledge? So I spoke to my friends who work at the embassy. I've spoke to some guys in the military, and I spoke to some very smart, people here, both Ukrainians and foreigners, or expats, that have both decided to leave and decided to stay. And one question that nobody asked for some reason is why Russia would want to invade Ukraine in the first place. Why Russia would actually even want to have war, and what are the consequences for Russia? And that's something a lot of people just don't think about or don't understand. If you ask the question, can they? Yeah, of course they can. I mean, technically, any country can invade another country. Like, North Korea could start a war right now. China could invade Taiwan. There's so many countries that can do it. Just because they have the troops close to the border isn't that different. I mean, nowadays, countries have fighter jets, they have missiles, we have, like long-range bombs. Like, they don't need to physically march 100,000 troops just to start a war. They can do it from thousands of miles away. So the question, was always like, can Russia do it? Yes. Are they in a better position right now to potentially invade and start a war than they normally would? Yeah, a little bit, right? But the question would be, why would they do it, and what would the repercussions be? So first, the benefit to Russia would be very, very small. I mean, assuming that they can hold Ukraine, which they can't because it's such a big country and it's very non-pro-Russian nowadays compared to even 8 years ago, they wouldn't be able to hold it. So what can they do? I mean, they could try to take a little bit more of Ukraine, but they wouldn't be able to hold it anyways. For sure, the NATO would 100% come in because then Russia would be so close to their borders. So what else could they do? Are they gonna come bomb Kyiv? And this is why people told me to leave. They said, Johnny, get out because you're in danger. And I'm like, I am in the beloved capital of, the former USSR. This is like, if let's say America and France decided to go to war, if America decided to destroy the Eiffel Tower, like both the French and Americans and basically the whole world would hate whoever did that. Like, there's no point of coming and destroying beautiful Kyiv. Everybody loves Kyiv. Like, everybody loves the architecture here, the history here. It's like the city itself is not the enemy, right? And do I think that tanks are going to drive all the way to the capital? Like, probably not. Like, as I said, in previous videos, the chance of any war happening is less than 5%, but the chance of it coming to Kyiv, I calculate as less than 1%. What they want, right? And let me show you guys around while we're walking. They would love to have a pro-Russian government, pro-Russian president, right? But like, by coming and starting a war, can they do that? Like, no, right? People are gonna hate Russia even more. So the only thing that they can hopefully do is try to somehow weaken the other countries, right? Weaken the US, weaken, or at least the perception of the US and the EU and NATO, or making themselves look stronger, right? So here's what I believe that Russia was trying to do. And this is what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks. And I think it's starting to get more clear. Russia has been bluffing. And I had a really, really long in-depth conversation with probably the smartest guy I know that lives out here. And he has spent a lot of time, effort, and money to get good information, good intel. So I trust him, and he's staying. This guy is worth millions of dollars, and he has a lot on the line. So he's not just, just kind of like reading a couple things and guessing, right? He was saying, this is just how Russians do business. Like, how Americans will flex with their legal teams? Russians will flex with their power. So Russia has been pissed off that they've been losing power over the last decade or so, especially the last, however many years. They are no longer they don't even have a seat at the table anymore. The G7 summit, where they talk about things like this, they're not invited to anymore. And I don't know if you guys even remember, the G7 used to be the G8 until they kicked Russia out. And I'm not saying that Russia is the good guy or they did anything good. But that's completely like another topic, right? But just put yourselves in their point of view. Is why are they worried about the EU and Ukraine getting closer? It's because Russia is losing more and more power, and as NATO and the EU encroaches, they feel more and more threatened. So it's like, here's the best way to describe it, right? Imagine if the tables were turned and Russia decided, we're gonna have this organization, right? This treaty alliance or something, right? This defense alliance with some other countries. And we're gonna decide, let's have Mexico join, or let's have somewhere close to the US join. How's the US gonna feel about that? And I can tell you right now, the US would not let it happen, because this is exactly what happened in Cuba. If you guys remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, it was because basically Russia, the former USSR, wanted to have Cuba be part of their kind of alliance and have missiles there. And the US was like, no, you can't put missiles right next to our country. There's no freaking way we're gonna allow that ever. This is how Russia feels about NATO expanding east towards Russia. 5, 6, 7 years ago now, when Estonia and Latvia joined, Russia wasn't in a position to say no. They didn't have any power. And now they are kind of like, well, we got to do something because, Ukraine really is getting more and more pro-EU, especially, the last 8 years. And Russia's biggest fear is Ukraine is going to completely switch to kind of EU, NATO alliance. And it's going to be terrible for Russia. So Putin and the kind of Russian government, they decided, well, what can we do? We have to show that we're serious. And that's why I believe, and this is why a lot of very smart people believe that this entire military buildup was a flex showing, hey, we are serious, and this is what you can expect if you guys allow Ukraine to join NATO, or if you even think about it or talk about it. So, yeah, Russia would love Ukraine to have a pro-Russian government. I don't think that's going to happen. Lots has changed in the last 8 years, where most Ukrainians, especially the younger ones, don't want to be close to Russia. They would rather be closer to the EU. So even if somehow Putin was crazy enough to come in and overthrow the capital, it wouldn't last very long, because there's 5 million people living just in Kyiv, and they're not going to put up with it. They're not going to be like, okay, yeah, I guess we're Russia now. It's not going to happen. So let me read a couple comments so I can answer some of your questions. Let me show you where we are. Today was declared Ukraine Unity Day, to unify kind of the East, the West, the South, and kind of remind all Ukrainians that everyone's in this together, regardless of what what Russia has to say with it. So, so the next big question is, why did the US decide to make such a big deal? I asked this question in my last videos, is why does the US even care? The US never really cared about Ukraine. And I think it's because the US always needs a war. There's that movie Wag the Dog that I mentioned in my last video. Basically, the US always wants some evil empire, and I'm not saying Russia isn't evil, right? Maybe they are, but we chose them to be like, okay, for 2022, 2021, this is going to be the evil, focus, right? Because we can't say the Middle East anymore because we're out of Afghanistan. So we chose Russia. We were like, okay, these guys are the evil ones. Now, this is how our military complex is going to make money. This is how we're going to get the attention away from the US economy and the insane inflation that's happening, all the money that was printed. And now we're going to have an excuse why, the government is doing the things they're doing. And maybe that'll bring up approval ratings for Biden. He'll get reelected, because I think his goal was, let's make Russia seem like they're just about to attack, even though the chance of them actually doing it was very low. And Russia had even said that they don't want to attack, they don't want war. I think the US wanted to say, look, they were almost going to do it. They were about to do it, but because of how great, America was, we stopped them. We made them change their minds. Putin ran back and decided not to. Did it work? I don't think so. I think this was the first time ever where the US kind of propaganda machine, as they say, was highlighted, right? And, you know, I don't know how deep you want to get into that because it could just be mainstream news just kind of regurgitating whatever is popular. But it also could just be, you know, who knows how deep that goes, right? But at the end of the day, I believe that that's what the US wanted. Like, see, there's actually some newscasters going. So here, I'm gonna show you guys around while we're here. These are where all the other countries are from here. And this is Maidan. This is where the revolution happened, the Maidan revolution. A lot of you guys were on fire after if you haven't, go on Netflix after this and watch it. It's a very, very good movie that you guys should watch. So a few days ago, my mom called me and says, like, Johnny, like, please just go on vacation somewhere. Just please get out of Ukraine just in case. And I told her, I was like, look, Mom, like, nothing has changed. Like, I don't think anything's gonna happen. And she basically just begged me. She's like, I can't sleep. Just like think about going somewhere. And I said, okay, I'll look at some flights. I'll think about going somewhere. So the reason why I ended up not is, first, I knew like the chance of something happening were so low that just the chance of getting into a car accident, you know, while on vacation is actually higher than me dying here in Ukraine, even during this conflict. And I knew that everybody was panic flying outside of Ukraine or out of Ukraine because of, you know, the messages we got from the government telling us to leave in the next 48 hours. And I was like, well, I can either panic fly out, and there's gonna be a ton of madness at the airport. The flight's gonna probably be overbooked, and I'll be taking a seat from someone who is genuinely scared, you know, because the planes were full. A lot of flights were threatened to be canceled. Actually, there's one guy screaming in the background. I think he's screaming about Ukraine, but I can't really understand everything he's saying. But I didn't want to take someone's flight, you know? And he's saying, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes, which was also the chant that they were saying back in during the Maidan Revolution. And the nice little lady is talking to her now. Man, we have almost 2,000 people on here. Oh, Eric LaFell's here. Somebody. Man. So one of the reasons why there's so many flags up today is because of the Ukraine Unity Day. I don't know if this is the first time they ever had it. I think it is. But I'm assuming maybe they're going to have this as an annual holiday after this. You know, assuming everything goes well today, which I think it is. I mean, honestly, today is a day that nobody expected. And I woke up this morning with 99 plus messages, guys. Like, nobody in Kyiv thought Russia would be this crazy. And here's the thing, is like, yes, like the news has told us about it. Everyone had been warned about it. And I know there's a lot of people who are going to say, I told you so. I told you Russia's going to invade. You know, Johnny, you're crazy for ignoring these messages. But here's the thing is, I was with a big group of friends yesterday. all of them that live in Ukraine. Half of them are Ukrainian. And I asked them just yesterday, I was like, are you guys worried? And they said, like, no, Russia's not crazy enough to attack Kyiv. And even though I knew it was going to be a relatively small chance that Russia would be insane enough to actually attack the capital of Kyiv, it was still a 5% chance. And it looks like Russia and Putin really did it. Now, in this video, I want to show you what it looks like now on the streets of Kyiv, everything that I've heard on the ground, what my plan is, what everyone else is doing, why I think Putin decided to attack. But honestly, nobody really knows what's happening right now. Like, everybody's kind of shocked, all right? So first off, I want to clear this misconception. The streets of Kyiv are not bombed. The houses are completely normal and fine. But everybody heard a bomb at 6 a.m. from Russia bombing the airport. Now the thing is, yes, the airport is closed. Yes, there's military on the street. But it's also not Call of Duty. It's not a complete war zone. Shops are closed, but luckily the grocery stores are open. So I have a lot of groceries that I had prepared, but I'll buy some more because I plan on staying. IG101, thank you so much for the donation. The reason why I'm staying is exactly the same as before. I still don't think the chance of me personally getting bombed or killed on the streets of Kyiv or my apartment is very high. It's very, very small. So far, and hopefully it remains this way, Russia is just attacking infrastructure and military. So the airport, even though it's closed, they didn't bomb the passenger airport. They bombed the military airport, which was right next door. Unfortunately, that means there's no flights out as well. I had some friends calling me this morning saying, do you think I can take a train out? And I said, that's going to be the first thing that's going to get full. Like, everybody's going to take a train out. So the other way out was to drive or take a bus. So I had one good friend who was actually at my house last night, and last night everything was normal. This morning he sent me a video of him walking with a suitcase through cars, through traffic. So I don't know if he's going to try to walk to Poland or just walk past the traffic. But here on Khreshchatyk, in the main center, there's very few cars and very few people because most people don't live in the city center. Most people come here for like work or, to go to restaurants and things like that. So most people actually don't live in the center, which is why it's relatively quiet. Let me show you around. There's some military in front of this building here, some news reporters. But you can see on the actual street, it's relatively quiet, all right? And the problem is, Tarragon, thank you very much for that. Be safe, appreciate that. The problem with trying to leave right now is you're gonna be stuck in traffic for literally the whole day, maybe 2 days. There's queues at the petrol station, the gas station, because everyone's trying to gas up and leave. So the plan was, and I knew this earlier, and I did this calculation. I was like, okay, if I want to leave, I should have left, last week, 2 weeks ago, last month, 2 months ago, when we first started hearing this news. And if I was going to stay, I knew I wouldn't be able to run away as soon as something happened because everybody's going to leave at the same time. And I don't know the exact figures, but at least half the people I personally know have left or are trying to leave today. There's people walking around with suitcases on the street. Multi-network resources, thank you for that. Right? There's a lot of people, walking down the street with suitcases. I've heard some hostels have closed and actually asked the guests to leave, mainly because maybe the staff wanted to leave and they wanted to go home. But because I have my own house, I decided, and not today, I decided weeks ago that I would stay in shelter in place. So the kind of big things I wanted to show you guys today is, yes, Russia has attacked. They sent, they deployed bombs on the, on the military. And Russia has said they're not going to attack civilians. They're not going to attack buildings. They're only going to attack the military and infrastructure. And there's no reason not to believe that, right? I just missed that blue chat. Sorry, guys. Let me see if I can see it. Yeah, so everybody is sad, right? Because they knew that Russia would do something, but they really did not believe. And I know, a lot of you in the comments are going to say, Johnny, I told you so. You're a freaking idiot for staying. You know what? If you were wrong, then, which was a bigger chance, then what? And here's the thing is, if I had left 2 months ago, 3 months ago,